Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be going over the Bank20 number 4. So let's start with number 1. We have 12x minus 7 equals negative 11. So first thing we want to do is distribute the 12, and that becomes 12x minus 84 equals negative 11. And then when we add 84 to both sides, we get 12x equals 73. And dividing by 12 just gives us 73 over 12, which is E. Number 2 is a little confusing, and I myself am not really sure which answer I think is the best one. So I actually let 2 of them be the correct answer. So basically we have this rectangular plot right here. It's 10 by 15. And she's going to have flowers along the inside. And they're going to make, so like here's your flowers. They're going to make a border around her vegetables, and it tells us that this border is 1 foot wide. So basically we have a foot here and a foot here. So we're taking off 2 feet from the length. So this becomes 8 and this becomes 13 because it's taking off 1 foot on each side. Here's where I get a little confused. It's not clear. It just says what is the area of the rectangular plot. So that could mean the entire 10 by 15, which would be 150, because that's it called the 10 by 15, the rectangular plot. But if it's talking about where the vegetables are going to go, that would be the 8 by 13. So I let both of those 104 and 150 count. So hopefully when you take the ACT, it won't be that complicated. All right, number 3, you should not be missing this question by now. 4 sandwiches, 2 soups, 2 salads, 2 drinks. You always multiply those. 4 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. All right, number 4. We have x squared plus y squared equals 324. And I want to be able to solve for y and get a real answer, not an imaginary number. So let's go ahead and solve this for y. So I'm going to start by subtracting x squared. And we get y squared equals 324 minus x squared. And then I take the square root, so y equals the square root of 324 minus x squared. And now I'm going to see which of my answers I can plug in to get a real answer. Out of all of your answer choices, if you plug them in, some of them, all but one, will give you an error, or depending on your calculator settings, it might have an I in your answer. If it doesn't give you an error, it would say something I. You want the one that doesn't do that. And so if we plug in 18, we get the square root of 324 minus 18 squared, and that gives us 0. That's the only one that's not imaginary and doesn't give us an error. All right. Number 5, it asks for 1/9 of. When you hear of, that means to multiply. 1/9 of 63% is 0.63 of 6,000. And you just multiply those to get 420. Number 6, we know that we have the midpoint and we have one of the ends. So when we have a midpoint and only one of the ends, we do these a little differently. We just want to see, all right, from 3 to 9, I'm adding 6. So if I add 6 again, I get 15. From 1 to -8, I subtract 9. So if I subtract 9 again, I get -17. So 15, -17. You have to read carefully because if it gives you the midpoint, you really don't have to use the midpoint formula. Number 7, we have 6y minus 18x equals 6. We want to find the slope. So we do this by getting it into slope-intercept form. So we first add the 18x to both sides. And that becomes 6y equals 18x plus 6. We always like to list our x term first. And then if we divide by 6, we just divide everything by 6. Y equals 3x plus 1. So my slope is 3. All right, absolute value, number 8. Absolute value of x plus 9 equals 19. I think we've had this exact question before. So if we have x plus 9, we're going to set that equal to 19. And we set it equal to -19. So if we subtract 9, we get x equals 10. Subtract 9, we get x equals -28. Number 9. So it tells us that the circumference is 96 pi, and we know that circumference is pi times diameter. So that means that 96 is the diameter. We need half of that for the radius, so 48 is the radius. Number 10, super easy, just plug into your calculators. Now, it's kind of blurry, so you may have missed because it looks like MP divide. It looks like a little divide, but there's a dot there. It's really MP minus MN. So 4 times 9 minus 4 times -5. And just plug that in your calculator, and you get 56. All right. Number 11. We want to know the average between September 13th and September 17th. So we were just looking at the closing value. So there's 5 values there. You add them up and then divide by 5. So the 7,945 plus 8,020 plus 8,090, all of those added up. And then divide by 5, and I think you get 7,964. Number 12. We have rectangular tabletop that is 14 by 48. We want to know the length of the diagonal. So we have to do Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 14 squared plus 48 squared equals C squared. So if we do 14 squared plus 48 squared in the calculator, we get 2,500 equals C squared. And then we take the square root to get 50. I did square root. Now, this one was a Pythagorean triple. This is the triple 7, 24, 25. This is not really a common one, so you probably wouldn't recognize it unless you've just really spent a lot of time memorizing these triples. But 7 times 2 is 14. 24 times 2 is 48. So if you knew the last one, 25 times 2 was 50. And that may have saved you a little bit of time. All right, 13. All right. B, A, C, E, D, and there's our X. So it tells us that BC and DE are parallel. And we know that ABC is equilateral, which means that these are all 60. And so if you think back to geometry, we learned about parallel lines and transversals. And these two angles right here that I am putting in green, those would be corresponding angles, and they would be the same measure. So if this side is 60, this over here has to be 120 because they add up to 180, so X is also 120. All right, 14. We have 2x plus 3 times x minus 7. So if we multiply our first terms, 2x squared minus 14x, middle, plus 3x minus 21. And then we combine our like terms, 2x squared minus 11x minus 21. All right, 15, we were finding f of 3. So composition of functions, we always do the inside first. So we're going to find f of 3, which is 2 times 3 squared plus 3, which is 21. And then we're going to go to the next function on the outside, which also happens to be f. It's not always the same letter, but it is. And we're going to plug in the 21 this time. So 2 times 21 squared plus 21 gives us 903. All right, 16. We have the numbers 1 through 12. We want to know the probability that it is a factor of 12. So factors of 12, we have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So that's 6 total numbers out of 12, which simplifies to 1/2. Number 17, we're going to find the slope. Slope, you subtract your y's on top, so 4 minus 5. Subtract x's on bottom, 6 minus -4. That would be -1/10, which is f. All right, triangles, number 18. Okay. So first thing I want to look at is just this triangle right here. And we know that a triangle has 180 degrees. So if I've got 90, well, I'm trying to get pink, 90, 65, the other one would have to be 25, because those three make 180. Now if I look at the outside triangle, this is still 25. It tells me this is 50, So this one, I do 180 minus 50 minus 25, which is 105 degrees. $19. So we have negative x squared minus x. Let's factor out the GCF. So I can take out a negative x, and I'm left with x minus 1. You could have also went through your answer choices and kind of distributed your answer choices to see which ones matched your question. And number 20, when we write an equation, we first have to know the slope. So slope, you subtract your y's on top, 3 minus 1. X is on bottom, negative 2 minus 0. That would be 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1. And there's only one option that has a slope of negative 1. It is J. Everybody have a great